The second ever drawn ANZAC Day, 29 years after the very first one. Let's talk about it. So before we do jump straight in and talk about this insane game, as always, if you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I can see my followers are going up now, which is absolutely amazing, and I appreciate you all. Once you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. It just helps the channel a lot. It really helps me grow. I do want to hit 10,000 subs before the end of the year, so I'm like 2,500 or probably more than that away from it. So that's a goal. If you know any Collingwood supporters that like my Instagram page and haven't subscribed, please get them to subscribe. It would mean the world to me. But let's talk about this game. ANZAC Day is one of the best footy days, just like in general. Even as a neutral, you would be happy to see Collingwood and Essendon play. And this game was no exception. Besides that first start that we'll talk about in a little bit, it was just a really, really good contest. And I feel like the draw was probably warranted. Both teams had a lot of chances in that last quarter to put the other team away, and they didn't. So I think the draw was fair enough. I think the draw, yeah, honestly, the draw was fair enough, and you can't be disappointed, or you can be disappointed because we did have chances to win it, but we could have lost it as well. Essendon had chances to win it, and instead of not getting any points, we get 2 points. So more than happy with that. And also, you know, when you draw, if your percentage stays low, which I think our percentage might stay low, and that could decide if you make the 8 or not, a draw does help. Obviously, a win helps you way more, but a draw does help with that. So we won't know the full extent of what this game means until later on in the season. Before we talk about the Pies and where we could have done better and all this sort of stuff, I do want to give props to Essendon. And I tweeted about it yesterday as well. They were fantastic. Like, I sort of knew going in, and I know in my preview I said we'll win by 30 plus points, and I was so sure of that. I was so sure of that. But props to them. I thought they started fast. I thought they would falter a little bit. In the second half, I thought we'd run right over the top of them. But they really stayed true to themselves and their team, and they kept coming for us. And they're going to be a really good side soon once they get that consistency. Brad Scott has got them humming, and they easily could have stolen that game. Or I think we might have stolen the draw more than they could have stolen the win. But yeah, it was that. Well, they were incredible, and I just thought the damn walls were going to break, and we were going to just put our foot down like we did against Port Adelaide and absolutely come out, but it wasn't meant to be. Now, Collingwood, far out. Like, I could sit here and say, what if Jamie Elliott took the mark at the end? What if Checkers kicked those 2 goals? What if Billy Frampton after the 100-metre? Like Craig McRae said after the in the post-match game, a post-match presser, we don't want to live in what ifs. What if Kyle Langford kicked that goal at the end? What if Essendon, started converting their chances as well? Like, what ifs go both ways. And when you live in what ifs, and I know I've said this a bunch of times before, but when you live in what ifs, it really makes you feel sick, and it really, like you can't just live in what ifs. And I think that's just a good lesson in life, just in general. Not living in what ifs and trying to just live in the moment. And you didn't get that one, try and get the next one. So yeah, Checkers, unusual for him. He kicked 3 goals, 3, and kicks 2 out on the full in that quarter. Very unusual. Unusual for Jamie Elliott to drop the chest mark, but we live and we learn, and there's not much that we can do. We got the draw and we didn't lose. Like, that's the biggest positive that comes out of this game. I do want to talk about Collingwood's slow starts. Like, what is going on? It happened last week against Port Adelaide where they just came out of the blocks. Essendon got to a 27-point lead. They kicked 6 goals straight. They like 6 goals 0, not straight because we kicked 1 goal in between there. But they got out to a 27-point lead. Like, are you kidding me? Like, like Craig McRae said, before we blinked, they had kicked 3 or 4 goals. Like, I think before we even had 12 disposals, they kicked 3 goals. You can't let teams do this to you. We knew going in that Essendon were a really good stoppage side. In my preview, I'm like, if we want to win the game, we need to pressure around stoppages. We need to, close up on them, tackle them, etc., etc. And then Craig McRae said the same thing. It doesn't happen. We had negative 17 in clearances. We lose the center clearances 19-8. In that last quarter, all the center clearances, I'm pretty sure like maybe 95% of them went Essendon's way. They definitely won the first 7, and then we might have won 1 or 2, but they definitely won the first 7 in that last quarter or so, or maybe not 7, but they definitely won the first bunch in the last quarter. And there's the game there. Like, if you're letting your opponent, like Jake Stringer, like, why are we letting Jake Stringer run that midfield there, right? And it just shouldn't happen. We know what we needed to do. Put Braden Maynard in the middle, put Jamie Elliott in the middle, put Bo McCreary in the middle, someone who was going to tackle and show that pressure that we needed just to slow it down, because they ended up getting up to like a 2-goal lead, and yes, we pegged them back. But still, the damage had been done because they were getting it out of the centre. They were doing their job, and we just weren't doing our job. One thing which isn't a what if, but it is a little bit annoying. Tom Mitchell comes off as a tactical sub, right? Tom Mitchell's best work is an inside mid, in and under, the Wombat, good pressure, good tackling machine. Yes, he didn't have a great game, but I don't think he should have been subbed off. Maybe sub off, like a Will Hoskin-Elliott if you're going to put Harvey Harrison in the forward line, or Bobby Hill or someone. I think subbing Tom Mitchell off was a bad move, in my opinion. And I'm spewing that no one at the presser asked that question about why he got subbed off. I just don't think it was a good move, especially late in that game where we really needed his presence. Sub off Steel Sidebottom, who didn't have that good of a game. He did some very nice things, the chasing and the running and stuff like that, but he didn't have a huge game. Maybe take off him, because we put him in the centre and he was just slow. And I think Tom Mitchell really needed to be in the centre square, especially in that last quarter. In saying that, though, I said our pressure is back. The pressure pliers are back. Plus 17 in tackling, which is really good. And we won the forward 50 tackles by 12. We had 14 forward 50 tackles to Essendon's 2. So our tackling and pressure, that's our bread and butter. That's there. We love that, right? But we lost every major stat except for the tackling. Clearances, contested possessions, we got done by 25 or something like that. Uncontested disposals, marks, kicks, handballs. Every facet of the game that's a fundamental besides tackling, we lost in. You're not going to win many games like that. If we go into Carlton next week, who have got an insane midfielder, Cripps, Semi Walsh. If you give them as much room as you gave to Jake Stringer, of course we're going to get smashed by bloody 60 points if that happens. That's something that we really, really need to bloody work on, because they were just getting it out of there with ease, and there was no pressure on them, and it gives them the best chance to attack and to win the game, and that was evident right at the end. So just a little bit more on that. Essendon kicked 43 points from stoppages to our 9 points. So that's the game right there. But last week we talked about how we're not a back half side anymore. We're a forward 50 or a forward attacking side, intercept side. That was, we scored 35-15 from our forward intercepts. The intercept game in general, we scored a lot from as well. So that is our bread and butter. But Essendon's bread and butter was the stoppages, was the clearances, and we just didn't put enough work into them. And this is the result. We get that draw. And in the first quarter, they kicked 3 or 4 goals or whatever it was in a row. And you sort of have to peg back. What I do want to say, though, is even though I hate that we are that far down, the last 2 weeks I've been so happy about the fight and the will to just keep going. We were down by 27 points against Essendon. I think it might have been 32 or something similar, pretty similar to. It was a carbon copy of the Port Adelaide game, pretty much in that first half of last week's game. So our willingness to fight, but then you need to kick 4 or 5 goals to to even them up, and then another one to sort of go on top of them. And we did kick a bunch of goals in a row. That second quarter was great. That's when I thought, okay, here's what we did against Port Adelaide. We're going to come out and smash them. But to Essendon's credit, they just kept going back at us. It's disappointing, right? It's disappointing. If we had won that game, Craig McRae last week said, it doesn't matter how you win, even if it's ugly, you just got to win. And we probably would have stolen it if we had won it. But Essendon had their chances and they just didn't take them, and we had our chances and we just didn't take them. It is frustrating in the scheme of things. So now we sit 3 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. It's better than sitting 3 wins and 4 losses. We sneak into the 8 now. We'll be out of it by the end of the round, but that's okay. But this was a big test, and we said the Pies were back, and there were glimpses of us being back, but for the most part, it was just annoying because we just couldn't go that little bit, and maybe we spent all of our tickets trying to get that 5-goal lead that Essendon had, trying to peg that back a little bit, and then some. Maybe it was another 5. Did we have another 5-day break? Played on Thursday. Yeah, we had another short turnaround. So especially when you've got older bodies, and I'm not making excuses. Essendon played well, so that's it. But you can't excuse these things. That they are what's happening. They are what's happening. But yeah, it's disappointing. I don't know how to feel. Now I do. Now I'm actually a little bit upset. Now that I'm a little bit more upset now that I'm talking about it on camera. But I think the most eerie feeling. So at the start of the game, everyone's silent for the minute of silence, the last post and stuff like that. Haunting, beautiful, right? Then at the end of the game, everyone is silent because there's no song. That was just as haunting, and that was just as eerie. It was great. I didn't know how to feel, and you've probably seen that footage on my Instagram. I just didn't know how to feel. My dad was happy because he put money on the draw, so he was stoked. But yeah, I feel like there was a couple of players that really shined. Nick Dacos did the best he could. Johnny Noble, Checkers did a lot. There was a couple here and there, but there was a couple of guys too that sort of had dropped their colours. Isaac Quaynor, Jack Crisp, Jordan De Goey, these guys who you sort of rely on, they just were a little bit off their game, and you can kind of see it and you can kind of tell. And then, everyone was off their game at the start of the game anyway, because Essendon just smashed us. But yeah, you can kind of see that everyone was, a couple of people were just a little bit off their game, and now it results in a draw. Special shout out to Harvey Harrison, kicking a really important goal. I want to see more of what he can do. He is one of the futures for us. But a big shout out to my boy Jamie Elliott for that absolute, probably the best mark I've ever seen that I can remember. Jeremy Howe's mark against Melbourne was really good, but that was an incredible mark, specky, screamer, whatever you want to call it. He is a special player. He is a bloody special player. Goes back and slots it as well. And it was at an important time over Ben Mackay. Just an ANZAC Day classic, something that we'll be talking about for another 50 years, So shout out to Jamie Elliott. But look, it's frustrating, in Fly we trust that they'll know what to do. We get an extra day ahead of, or extra 2 days, because I think Carlton play tomorrow on Saturday. So we do get an couple extra days rest, which is nice, which we need. I'd want the time again if I could, but it is what it is. We get the draw. We come away with the 2 points. Better than coming away with no points. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think? Should there be extra time? I personally don't think there should be extra time. Keep it as a draw. I love it. I love a draw. EPL has a draws or soccer has a draws all the time, except in finals. Keep the extra time for finals. Because, honestly, what's 5 minutes extra a quarter going to do at the end of the game? 5 minutes, Collingwood, the last goal Essendon scored in the last quarter was in the 8th minute mark. The last goal Collingwood scored was in the 13th minute mark. We Oh, that's another thing that I want to talk about. Oh my God, right at the end. Um, I feel like we went a little bit too defensive in that last quarter. I feel like, yes, we were trying to win the game, but we were also trying to not let them score. And I think that kept us in two minds. It was pretty evident towards the right at the end of the quarter. Reminded me of the Hawthorn game just in Gather Round a couple of weeks ago where we just tried to not let them score. So yeah, it was interesting. Craig McRae said, yeah, we were trying to score, but I just feel like, yeah, obviously we were trying to score, but I just feel like we might have set up a little bit too overly defensive just towards the end there, instead of, trying to bomb it long and, but again, I guess that's a what if, isn't it? It's a what if. But look, it is what it is. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, double shaggers. I'll soup you later.